and we're joined by City Councillor Luke Stack. This, you got a lot of calls on that golf course issue, and a lot of emails. This short-term rental thing, is it even on that scale in terms of the public interest?
I think it will be. I've got a lot this week. Ever since we proposed this new bylaw, I probably received about 25 letters from the public on this. But as you know, the golf course went on for about a year, so we had a lot. But I think there's a lot of interest in this, and I think between now and when it goes to public hearing, we'll hear a lot more.
So give us a nutshell of what council has agreed to send to the public hearing stage here. What exactly is staff suggesting here?
Okay, so let me roll it back a bit. 4 years ago, City Council came up with our first short-term rental bylaw, with the hope of finding some middle ground to allow people to do some short-term rentals, but also have some restrictions. We've now worked with that bylaw for 4 years, and we've discovered that it's very challenging for us to enforce. We have some citizens who are very good citizens. They take out a business license, they follow the rules, and we don't have issues. But we also have hundreds and hundreds of people doing short-term housing without licenses, that don't follow the rules, and we're finding it very, very difficult to enforce.
My understanding is for every licensed one, there's another one that isn't. It's about 50-50.
That's about what we're seeing, about 1,200 unlicensed and about 1,200 licensed. So essentially, we've heard from the public over the last few years saying, please, could you get on top of this, because it's really affecting our quality of life in some of the neighborhoods we live in. So council in the summer asked staff to go back, tighten up the bylaw, and come back with something that's more restrictive and more enforceable.
Okay,
and that's
you
what
mentioned
they came forward with.
You mentioned the noise and all that, but it seems to me the more compelling reason, and what I'm hearing from advocates of these changes, is how much it's taking out of the rental pool for people who need housing. It's a crisis we're here.
Yeah, I do believe it's very hard to get exact numbers around this, but I personally believe that yes, every short-term rental unit does two things to the long-term rental market. One, it takes a unit out that possibly could have been long-term, but secondly, because there's so much money being made in the short-term rental market, it's actually jacking up the values of rentals. And when I look back at the rental rates, they've skyrocketed in the last 4 or 5 years, and it actually coincides with short-term rentals coming to our community. And we can see that all across North America. Wherever Airbnb comes, rents just start going up. And I think it's because it removes houses from the rental pool, and those that are left are bid up.
Right. So for someone who went through the process and is going through Airbnb or VRBO, renting their house in some random neighborhood in Kelowna, outside of the downtown, would that come to an end for them?
Yes, it would. Yeah, because we're removing short-term rentals as a secondary use in all single-family and multifamily neighborhoods, as well as agricultural neighborhoods. So it's quite a restriction. And what we're doing is trying to find a balance, because we also know that tourists are a big part of our economy, and we're trying to balance it where we have areas that are zoned for short-term rentals. And I think of Sunset Drive over here, some areas in the Mission, that those projects were developed with the understanding that they were going to be short-term. So the city's position is we will continue to support that. And from our estimation, there's about 1,200 units that would still continue to be short-term. But for those that are running, who have bought a house or an apartment and are just wanting to rent it out as a short-term unit, they will not be permitted to do that.
And then apartment buildings like Brooklyn over here, I know there's a lot of short-term rentals there. How would they be affected?
Under this proposed bylaw, they would be considered legal non-conforming, which means they had the right to do it when the building was built, so we'll continue to support it. But if one of the people that are operating don't let their business license lapse for more than 6 months, and then they came back to City Hall saying, oh, I want to renew it and become a short-term, we'd say, sorry, you can't do it.
And Water Street by the park, the not built yet, but starting to rise into the sky.
I'm not sure about Water Street by the park what their designation is. But our goal is to try and make apartment buildings that are being built in downtown to create a community, to be an apartment building in downtown, which is a community. One of the things we don't want to do is approve housing that is going to suddenly turn into short-term rentals. And particularly if we have an investor who might buy 5, 6, or 10 of these and run it like a small hotel, because it really undermines the whole idea of how we're trying to build out our community and our city.
You know, these days, a lot of people like to travel using Vrbo or Airbnb, residences for their stays. If it goes through,
Yeah.
can't be good for tourism.
Well, no, but we would say actually we still have 1,200 units in our city.
We've got about 1,200 legal ones now.
And so if you want to do an Airbnb or a VRBO, those would be the options for you that are available. But what we're saying is if you live on a quiet cul-de-sac in the Upper Mission, then no, that's not a good place for vacation rentals because it really undermines the strength and character of the neighborhood.
So it was interesting around the council chambers, a lot of councillors saying, thank you, staff, and we'll send this to public hearing. Not a lot of opinion. I think a little bit of fear that no matter how you vote on this, there's going to be some people upset.
The reality is a lot of people have a lot of money invested in this type of activity, and it's important to them. And I recognize that. I don't take that lightly. I know when you buy a house, it's a big commitment, and when you make an investment, it's a big commitment. But we also know that we have a huge housing problem in our city, and we simply can't keep our head in the sand. We have to take some sort of meaningful action, and I would argue it's not here only. The whole province is doing it, and the province of BC is going to be forthcoming with their rules and regulations, and they may end up being much stricter than ours.
And however ultimately council votes on this issue, there could be even further ramping down of short-term rentals as the province gets its legislation into place.
That's exactly right. And one of the reasons we're advancing this right now is we actually believe what we're presenting is a more balanced approach, and that by allowing some short-term rentals in legally zoned areas and then restricting it in areas where they shouldn't be, that is a really healthy position to be in. Whether the province takes our lead on that, time will tell, but that's why we want to be out in front of this, because we think it is a very balanced position.
And people who disagree with you on this will have a chance to be heard at a public hearing coming up pretty quick.
Yeah, at the moment it's a proposal, and we'll have a public hearing, and then council would have a full debate. And that may be why some of the councillors didn't say too much on this, Kent, because they want to hear from the public before they formulate their final opinion.
Terrific. Thanks for your time this morning.
My pleasure.
And thank you for watching Kelowna Now.